Dr. Yoni Whitten here, and this week we're going over a simple 3-step strategy to help you get rid of golfer's elbow and make sure that it never comes back. Let's get into this. Before you can effectively treat or rehabilitate any injury, it's important that you understand exactly what you're dealing with. So with golfer's elbow, other name for this condition is medial epicondylitis. Let's unpack that term. The medial epicondyle is here. It's a bony bump at the bottom of the bone in your upper arm called the humerus that sticks out on the inside right where your arm touches your body. Now, all the muscles from the underside of your forearm that are responsible for this motion, wrist flexion, they all attach, all the tendons, they insert right on that bony bump. So when you say you have a medial epicondylitis, it means that there's an inflammation of the tissue that's attaching to the epicondyle. Another way of saying this is a tendinitis. Now the tendinitis means that there's inflammation of the tendons, but the term that we're using nowadays is a tendinosis, which implies both that there's inflammation and that there's little microscopic tears that are happening in the tendons. Now those tears can be the result of one acute injury, like when a golfer hits the turf and it stops the club abruptly and it creates a quick stretch and a tearing of that tissue. But more often what I see in my clinic is chronic overuse. This is the person who's constantly doing motions like this, typing, lifting things, and you get overuse and hyperdevelopment of the muscles on one side of the elbow and an imbalance between the musculature on the two sides of the arm. Over time, with repetitive motion, you get those little tears. Now, because those tears are occurring in tendons, this is tissue that has a very poor blood supply, and because of this, it heals really slow, and as you continue to use it, basically, you're creating damage faster than you can repair it. So we're going to be using, like I said, a 3-step approach to resolve this problem. Step number 1, bring blood flow to the area where the tears are occurring to bring in nutrients to repair the damage that's been done. A lot of the more popular methods for self-myofascial work, like using a foam roller or a myofascial ball, or scraping tools or a self-massager, are not the best suited for golfer's elbow because of the nature of the area that you're working with. So the medial epicondyle is here, highlighted in green. Just below the surface of the skin is this bony bump, and there's not a lot of padding there. So if you go poking and pressing and scraping on it, it doesn't take much to irritate the area, and there you're just adding insult to injury. So what I like to use instead is these silicone cups. One of the really cool things about these sets of silicone cups is that they come in multiple sizes. So realizing that it's not one size fits all for each person, and even when you're working on an individual, there are certain areas of their body that are going to work better with a smaller cup than the really large one. In this case, I like the large size cup because it allows you to compress down, and I'm going to show you, right where that medial epicondyle is. You press that cup down, really flatten it out, then you sink it down against the skin and release. And this is just going to fill out with negative pressure and create a ton of suction down there. And then once you've got that attached, you can just run through ranges of motion with your arm like this, and you're getting a stretch against that negative pressure. And you can do motions at the wrist like this. You can add a second cup if you palpate down or feel down your arm and you find another tender area. You can add a second cup in a smaller size, and then you can start really getting good stretch underneath the area where the tissue is being held in place by the suction. And this is a great way that's going to make sure that you don't irritate that bone, the medial epicondyle, while bringing increased blood flow to the region. So do that 1 to 3 minutes a day and just pump the arm through a range of motion. And I'm getting a great stretch under here. In fact, you see when I take this off, listen to the noise it makes. So you can see all that redness, that's increased circulation. Step number 2 in our strategy is to increase fluid dynamics. Now what that means is we want to lift the superficial layers of tissue away and allow more nutrients to be delivered and more waste products to be flushed out. And what we're going to be using for this is rock tape. And these applications can stay on for 3 to 5 days at a time, so you're getting those benefits for all of those hours of the day with no effort on your part. Like with all rock tape applications, you want to make sure that the area of skin that you're applying to is clean and dry and free of lotions, creams, and moisturizers. For the length of tape, I'm going to be using about a 6-inch strip that's going to give me a little bit of extra coverage on the top side of the epicondyle as well as the bottom side, just making sure that I get a really good stick and I cover the entire affected area. And then finally, you want to make sure that you round your edges just like this. This makes sure that you don't catch an edge causing the tape to come off prematurely. Once you've got that, you're going to tear your tape about 2 inches from the edge and peel that away. You're going to take that and you're going to apply it above the medial epicondyle, which is here in green. You're going to go slightly above that and you're going to lay that down, heading in the direction of your wrist. So you can see here I'm at a slight angle. That edge goes down with no stretch. And then you're just going to rub there to activate the adhesive. And then you're going to peel away just like this, and you're going to start adding about 20% stretch to the tape. You want to make sure that the wrist is in an elongated or stretched out position for the muscles that you're applying to. Applying 20% stretch, heading directly towards my wrist, and then you're going to lay that down. 2 inches from the end, you stop stretching, and you just lay that edge down with no stretch. That means that you have a very solid anchor both at the top and the bottom with no stretch, and then 20% stretch in this center section right here, lifting off, again, bringing in more nutrients and flushing out more waste products. You take the tape backing, rub that to activate all that adhesive. And like I said, just a little bit above the elbow. This can stay on for 3 to 5 days, giving you the benefits the whole time you're wearing it. Part 3 of our strategy involves strengthening the opposing muscle group. So in a golfer's elbow, it's the wrist flexors, the muscles that do this, that are affected here on the underside of the body where the tape is. What we want to do is we want to begin strengthening our wrist extensors, the muscles that pull the wrist backward and the fingers open. One of my favorite tools for this are these silly looking things. They're called finger stretchers. And what you do is you slide your fingers into those openings, just like that. And your thumb goes into the bottom one. Then you hold your arm straight out in front of you, and you pull back with the wrist and open with the fingers. Back and open. Now, when you order a set of these, they come in 3 different sizes or weights, and it can be very difficult for people. The thing to remember about this is the more you slide your fingers into those openings, the deeper you go into it, basically, the easier it becomes. So here, a lot of people can be successful. If you start putting them out at the ends of your fingers, it's a much longer lever and a lot harder to lift. But here is a position that pretty much anybody could be successful. If this is still too hard, you would just put the fingers in a little bit deeper and you slowly work on building this strength. This is a motion that almost nobody does on a regular basis, and it sets the stage for those overuse type injuries like a medial epicondylitis that's not from an acute injury. So that is finger stretchers. I like to do both sides. Even if you only have golfer's elbow on one side, you'll be increasing strength and resilience to make sure that you don't end up with the same problem on your other side. With your finger stretchers, you want to work up to the point that you can do about 20 repetitions straight through, but in the beginning, you may have to start with just 1 to 5 repetitions because it's extremely difficult, and like I said, these muscles are untrained in most people nowadays. As a special bonus, I want to give you guys a part 4, and that's nutrient support. Now, if you've been struggling with golfer's elbow for a long period of time, or any inflammatory condition for that matter, you need to check out adding some nutrients to your diet that can help disrupt that inflammatory process and break up any scar tissue that's accumulated in those types of injuries. And one of my favorite nutrients for this is serrapeptase. It's the most powerful proteolytic enzyme in the body. It does a lot of the things that non-steroidal anti-inflammatories can do with none of the side effects, and it's the only enzyme that can actually break down fibrin, which is a super tough, dense protein that accumulates in scar tissue in these exact types of injuries. It's also one of 19 ingredients in my new line of supplements, Movement Essentials. I'm going to include links for that in the description down below. Be sure to check it out. Beyond that, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you'll put the information to good use. I'm going to include links for rock tape, for the silicone cups, and for the finger stretchers in the description down below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the new videos that come out each week. That's all for now. See you next time.